Dan Wheldon is going to win the race.
Yeah, Dan!
That is unbelievable. Oh my goodness.
Wheldon, after finishing second the last 2 years, wins when J.R. Hildebrand hits the wall coming out of 4, just as Scheckter did in 2000.
What a tremendous finish. And what a drive for Wheldon.
Dan Wheldon, a driver who achieved what so many dreamed of. He won the Indianapolis 500. Not once, but twice, forever cementing himself in the history books of the Speedway. 2011, the year of his second 500 win, became his last year, as 10 years ago today, Dan sadly lost his life at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Dan was a man revered on the racetrack as one of the top talents in American open wheel racing. His accomplishments reflect that. Off the track, he was a driver loved by fans and his fellow competitors alike, and his loss was felt throughout the racing community. This is his story.
Dan was born and raised in England by his parents Clive and Sue Wheldon, with 3 younger brothers and a younger sister. His father Clive had been involved in karting since an early age, and Sue was his timekeeper, so it's no surprise that Dan ended up racing karts as a boy. Wheldon started from the age of 4, but would not race in competitions until the age of 8 due to age restrictions on the contests. Clive would help in his development, taking him to Rye House Kart Circuit, and was able to secure sponsorship for Dan in the form of all-kart owner Bruno Ferrari. Even from an early age, Wheldon would show talent behind the wheel, winning the 1988, 1989 and 1990 RAC British Cadet Karting Championship. Wheldon would continue karting on a national level until Mark Rose and Terry Fullerton advised him to progress to international level, and again he would do this with success, winning the FIA Formula A World Cup with Fullerton's team.
The next stage of Dan's career took him onto single-seaters, and his first step on the ladder was the Formula Vauxhall Junior Championship, where he would come second overall. Over the following 2 seasons in 1997 and 1998, Dan would compete in the Formula Ford Championships. In these races he would rekindle a rivalry from his karting days with Jenson Button, the 2009 Formula 1 World Champion. Jenson would win out against Dan on track, winning the British Formula Ford and Formula Ford Festival ahead of 3rd place and 2nd place Dan respectively. But the respect was there between the two, and Jenson wished Dan would get a chance in Formula 1 like himself, but due to financial resources being limited, Dan's path would take him to America to continue his career in 1999.
Racing for J-Hard Primus Racing Team in the US F2000 Championship, Dan would find himself a home in the US straight away as he clinched the title in the 14 race series with 6 victories and standing on the podium in 11 of the races. The Rookie of the Year was the first British or European driver to claim the title in the championship and was inducted into its Hall of Fame in 2012. The following season he progressed up the road to Indy ladder, this time competing in the 2000 Toyota Atlantic Series. He would secure 2 wins that year, one in the season opener at Homestead, Miami, and the second at Laguna Seca, finishing the season runner-up to 2004 Indy 500 winner Buddy Rice. Indy Lights beckoned the following year as well as another runners-up position in the championship, this time to Townsend Bell. Wheldon had a consistent season, but it was from the mid-Ohio round he really started to settle in the championship, with 2 second place finishes, 2 victories and another top 5 to help him to 149 points.
Now America's premium open wheel series beckoned for Dan, joining Panther Racing, though this was initially as a test driver and had to wait on the sidelines till the final 2 rounds, bringing funding to the team to drive their second car. Wheldon would finish 10th at Chicagoland and 15th at Texas. Admittedly, his teammate won both races, but that teammate was also Sam Hornish Jr., the champion for the season. Though sponsorship for a second car at Panther Racing fell through, Kim Green from the recently renamed Andretti Green Racing Team had been impressed and contacted Wheldon for him to test and develop their car, while they looked for the sponsorship to run him a full-time ride for the 2003 season. Like for Panther Racing, the sponsorship didn't materialise, so Wheldon couldn't start the season. He got his first opportunity with the team filling in for Dario Franchitti in the number 27 car when Dario broke a vertebrae in a motorcycle accident. He qualified 5th and finished 7th. At the Indy 500 he again qualified 5th, though would crash out late to be classified 19th in his first attempt at the historic race. Franchitti returned after, but it was at this point that Michael Andretti decided to call time on his career, and this allowed Dan to continue for the rest of the season in his place. Highlights came at Chicagoland, where he would lead 38 laps of the race before coming home 4th, and in the final race of the year he would secure his first podium in the series at the Texas Motor Speedway, finishing 3rd. His rookie season had impressed a lot of people, including how well he adapted to oval racing, a traditionally difficult discipline for European drivers to race. He was the series official Rookie of the Year and was also voted Autosport's Rookie of the Year. In 2004 he started off the season strongly, in the opening 4 rounds securing 4 podium finishes, including a first ever pole position at the second race in Phoenix, and his first ever win came next time out at Twin Ring Motegi, where he led 192 laps from pole. Wheldon was looking a serious threat within the series. A further 2 victories and 5 podiums followed on top of that, putting him in a season-long title fight with his teammate Tony Kanaan. But he was out of contention after the penultimate round, residing to 2nd in the championship. 2004 had not only seen an improvement for Wheldon in the championship, with his first full-time season under his belt, it also saw an improvement at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, as he would start on the front row qualifying 2nd and came home 3rd. Dan Wheldon had announced himself well and truly to IndyCar that year and had asserted his place competing with the top guys in the series, setting up an exciting 2005.
Dan started 2005 even stronger than his 2004 season, winning the season opener at Homestead, Miami in dominant fashion. After starting 11th, he led 158 of the 200 lap race. He came home 6th at the next race in Phoenix before following up with back-to-back wins at St. Petersburg, which was his first road course win, and the other was a second successive win at Twin Ring Motegi. This took Dan into the greatest spectacle in racing with the championship lead. After qualifying on the 6th row, it would not be until the latter stages that Dan came into play in the race. When Roger Yasukawa brought out a caution, all of the leaders pitted, apart from Danica Patrick and Brian Herter. Danica took the lead on lap 172, and on the restart, a lap later she led Herter and the Indianapolis 500, going on to extend her lead to a 2nd over Herter. Danica, however, was having to hit fuel numbers, had to dull down her mixture, and this allowed Wheldon to eat into her lead, and on lap 186 he overtook Danica, and at the same time Kazuki Matsura crashed, bringing out a caution. With 10 laps to go, the race went green and Danica took the lead from Dan at the restart, though she would hold this for only 3 laps before Wheldon retook the lead and would then pull away from her. With less than a lap and a half to go, Bourdais crashed, bringing out a caution, leading to this.
White flag is out, and Dan Wheldon is going to win the Indianapolis 500-mile race under yellow. For much of the late stages of this race, it has been the Dan and Danica show, but it will be Dan Wheldon winning the 89th Indy 500 as an Englishman will roll into victory lane at the world's greatest race course for the first time in 4 decades.
That's a chicken you see in front of you, pal. You ready to drink some milk? That's the boy. Guys, I'm not emotional, but I'm crying. I can't believe I've just won the Indianapolis 500.
Dan had won the Indy 500, an incredible achievement that so many dream of but so few achieve. It was the first 500 for Andretti Green Racing and the first British winner of the race since Graham Hill back in 1966. An incredible moment in Dan's career, but he wasn't done with 2005 yet. He would go on to score another 2 wins at Pikes Peak Raceway and Chicagoland, taking his season total to 6, combined with a further 3 podiums with a total of 10 top 10 finishes after Indianapolis, taking Dan to a season total of 628 points. That was enough to clinch him his first IndyCar title.
2006 saw Wheldon in new race overalls as he joined Chip Ganassi Racing, as he was tempted to sign for the team after informal discussions in August of the previous year. Dan felt this move would secure his future and competitiveness in the series. Well, it couldn't have started off better for the previous season champ, as he would win the season opener at Homestead, Miami. A second place finish at Twin Ring Motegi before the 500 had set the start of his season off well. Buoyed by the confidence of his previous year's success at the Speedway, Wheldon again qualified on the front row, starting third. He led a race high of 148 laps before a late puncture brought his challenge for the race to an end, pitting on the 183rd lap and coming home fourth. As the focus switched to the championship, Dan would have 8 top 10 finishes, including pole positions at both Kansas and Nashville, where he would come home second in both. Going into the season finale, Dan was one of 4 drivers who could clinch the title. Dan did everything he could winning the race, taking his total to 475 points. The problem for Dan was that Sam Hornish Jr. also finished on 475 points, and with his 4 wins to Dan's 2, Hornish won the tiebreak, stopping Wheldon from becoming a back-to-back champion. And that summed up Dan's time with Ganassi. Near misses. In 2007 and 2008, he finished 4th in the championship with 2 wins apiece in each season. He had planned to extend his stay with the team beyond 2008, but when he learnt the team was in discussions with Tony Kanaan, he felt betrayed and left the team, re-signing for Panther Racing for the 2009 season.
Wheldon would endure a tough couple of seasons with Panther Racing. They were not as competitive as they once were, and he failed to achieve a win in his 2-year stint with the team. He watched on as Dario Franchitti, who had moved to Ganassi for the 09 season after a brief stint in NASCAR, won both the 2009 and 2010 titles. The highest points with Panther came at the Indianapolis 500, where he would finish second in both years, losing out to Castro Neves in 09 and Franchitti in 2010. At the end of the 2010 season, he would leave Panther after a lack of funding. The 2005 Indy 500 and championship winner found himself without a full-time seat in the series. For 2011, Dan's full focus was on finding a ride for the Indy 500. After a deal with Drea Rainbold fell through, Wheldon secured a seat with former teammate Brian Herter, who had offered to assemble a car for him. Qualification went well, securing a spot on the second row in 6th. And then it was time for the race. It was largely an uneventful race for Dan, keeping himself out of trouble and navigating his way through the chess game that is the Indianapolis 500, making sure he was there or thereabouts at the end. In the closing stages, Hildebrand, Franchitti and Dixon were all ahead of Wheldon, but as Dario faded due to fuel conservation and having more pace than Dixon, Dan had worked his way up to second, and it looked like it would be for the 3rd year in a row a second place finish for Wheldon. But then this happened.
J.R. Hildebrand. Careful of traffic. He's got to get around the lap. Traffic. What in the gears? No! He hit the wall. Just like Thomas Schechter. Keep your foot on the gas. Dan Wheldon is going to win the race. Yeah, Dan!
That is unbelievable. Oh my goodness.
Wheldon, after finishing second the last 2 years, wins when J.R. Hildebrand hits the wall coming out of 4, just as Schechter did. He did that.
What a tremendous finish. And what a drive for Wheldon.
Heartbreak for Hildebrand, but elation for Wheldon. He was now a 2-time winner of the Indy 500. After a year of struggles with not being able to compete in the series, he found that magical moment winning the biggest race of all. And what a moment it was.
Sadly, what would come to follow would shake the racing world to its core. Dan was without a seat for the remainder of the 2011 season and would actually join as part of the Versus commentary team for 3 rounds after the 500 and did a great job in the role. But it's racing that's in Dan's heart, and an opportunity came up at the end of the season. A PR stunt by IndyCar CEO Randy Bernard announced that a $5 million prize fund was on offer to any non-IndyCar series driver who could win the race from starting at the back. This was then revised as no one outside of IndyCar took up the offer, so it became available to part-time drivers. Dan had started the previous race in Kentucky from the back as well and finished 14th in the number 77 Sam Schmidt car and agreed to take part in the challenge and would split the fund 50-50 with a fan. The problem though was the circuit. Like in 2001 with KART and the Texas Motor Speedway, which that race was actually cancelled, drivers had expressed concerns over the steeply banked track. At speeds of 220 mph on banking where it was very difficult to find a consistent racing line, there was no margin for error. An open wheel history at the circuit had been pretty poor, to put it bluntly, with the first race in 1996 being a crash fest that saw the safety car lead more laps than the winner. Unfortunately, unlike in 2001 where the race was cancelled, the Vegas race proceeded and Dan started at the back in 34th. On lap 11, the worst fears of those sceptical about the race came true. After Wade Cunningham clipped James Hinchcliffe, it started a chain reaction crash that involved a total of 15 cars, including the number 77 car of Dan Wheldon.
Oh, here we go. Trouble contact and a huge crash. Up in turn number 2. Oh, multiple cars involved. Oh, my. It looks like Dan Wheldon may be involved in it.
Dan Wheldon succumbed to the injury sustained in the crash and was pronounced dead on arrival at the hospital. Once the drivers had been told, it visibly shook them and the entire paddock. 5 laps of honour were conducted by the grid to the sound of Amazing Grace, and the number 77 stood at the top of the timing stand. IndyCar has not driven at the speedway since.
What IndyCar lost that day was not only one of its most talented drivers, but one of its amazing personalities. He had a confident persona. You often have to be successful at the very top of the sport, because if you don't believe in yourself, who else will? He had earned the nickname Lionheart from his karting days because of how he fought for every position on track, and it stuck. Stateside, he quickly became a fan favourite and liked amongst his peers. He always had time for the fans and always took the time to interact with them. He took time to do a lot of charity work as well, raising money for Alzheimer's disease research and Sam Schmidt Paralysis Foundation, as well as visiting the Peyton Manning Children's Cancer Hospital every year in Indianapolis. But other than the 500, something else changed his life. That was marrying his long-term personal assistant, Susie. She brought the best out of Dan, and with their 2 sons, Sebastian and Oliver, he became a strong and devoted family man. He really matured from that point. At this year's Indy 500, 10 years on from his second win, Susie, Sebastian and Oliver attended the speedway as Dan was remembered. But the Wheldon name is still involved in racing, as Sebastian and Oliver are both competing on the karting scene. A long way to go, but they both are enjoying competing in their first steps into motorsport.
We never met Dan. We weren't following the sport when he was involved in it, but it's testament to his legacy and what people thought of him that 10 years on, he is still prominent in people's thoughts. The current chassis bears his name, the DW12, which he helped develop during 2011, and more prominently his face is on the Borg Warner trophy, twice, with his beaming smile greeting you. Charismatic, deeply respected both on and off track, Dan Wheldon was a star in every sense of the word. His 2 Indy 500s and championship showed just what he could do. From modest roots, the Lionheart worked his way up from karts to one of motorsport's biggest stages at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and conquered it. Who knows what Dan might have gone on to achieve in the sport. With his record at the Speedway, you certainly wouldn't have ruled out another 500 title. It is always so sad when you lose someone, and when you lose someone who still had so much to offer the world as a driver, as a friend and as a father, it always hits you a little bit more. But Dan Wheldon was one of a kind, a fighter to the end, IndyCar's Lionheart.